Well, a good Friday. Thank you for tuning in to the Gardener's Corner program, a Friday feature here on TV Channel 10, located on Charter Communications Channel 191, and also on WKRX 96.7 FM. My name is Rob Hall. We hope that you're doing well on this Veterans Day. I know a lot of people is off of work today due to the Veterans holiday. And this is a pre-recorded edition of the Gardener's Corner program. Got a lot of useful information that we'll pass along to you. The program is presented today by Our Pride Foods, makers of Our Pride Premium Pimento Cheese Spread and Dip, South Boston Memorials, and T.G. Brooks Company. If you have the opportunity to send some business the way of our fine supporting sponsors, they would appreciate it. And we would appreciate it as well. Without further ado, I'd like to make welcome our guest of the day, Mr. Paul Westfall of the North Carolina Cooperative Extension Service. Paul actually is the director of the Cooperative Extension Service for both Person and Granville counties. I went a little bit too far.
Don't get Joey scared over there in Caswell County.
I don't know why I said Caswell County, but a good morning, Paul.
Good morning to you, Rob.
Appreciate you coming out today. And anyway, yes, Paul was actually off of work today, so we came in ahead of time to record the program today. And I think Paul has a really good topic for us to start talking about this morning. And, here it is, muzzle loading season. But tomorrow, actual gun season starts for deer hunting, and Paul decided that today would be a good time to talk about hunter safety. So we're going to be talking about things like that today, and also I know a lot of people have noticed that deer has been on the move the last several weeks. With it's kind of in rut season right now, and a lot of times a deer may be crossing in your way of travel, but just slow down a little bit. Early morning and nighttime driving is when it seems to be the most heavy traveled for deer crossing the highways, but just slow down and take your time, and hopefully if you see a deer on the side of the road, go ahead and stop if at all possible when it's safe, and pretty much give the deer right away.
Yeah, you don't want to run into them at all, and sometimes they'll run into you in spite of what you've done, but I've had that happen. But just be aware, time changed last week. We fell back, I believe is the way,
That's right.
way it goes, and that put our commute times to and from work right at the peak travel times, it seems like, for our deer herd. So the number of accidents usually goes up when the time changes in the fall for some reason.
Well, that's a good point, and you are correct. And with the deer being hunted, and with the time change, as Paul mentioned, just drive with care. Yeah. And the thing is, many times when you see a deer on side of the road, a lot of times people like to put their headlights on high beam, and that's not necessarily the wisest thing to do, because when you put more light on the deer, you're causing,
they can see.
That's exactly right. You're blinding them. Yeah. And the old expression, deer in the headlight look. and you know you can be causing um, more problems. Now I don't know if they are still on the market these days as they used to be. Paul, you may know, but years ago they used to have these little things that you could stick on the front of your vehicle, and it was some type of little device that the air would go through, and it would make some high pitched noise that deer
Deer
could
could
hear.
hear, and supposedly we could not, but it would alert them to a car coming by, and hopefully they would be alerted in time to move out of the way instead of moving in the way.
Right.
So
Uh,
I don't know of research to say that that does or does not work, but if it makes you feel better and you feel your chances are better of not hitting a deer with them, you know, then by all means go ahead and do it. They're still available at some different stores.
Right. I know
Yeah.
you used to see them on a lot of different vehicles, but I don't know if it's just me not paying attention or if they're not as plentiful as they used to be.
I don't know if they're as popular as they used to be, but they're still on the market. You can find them in different stores
Yeah.
around. Maybe not in, you know, some of the big superstore type things, but I'm sure some of the hardware stores and all might still have them.
Just to talk about hunter safety, and we'll also talk about some general gun safety. And one thing that that I think if everybody would treat a gun as if it's loaded at all times, even though it may not be loaded, but you should always treat
Absolutely.
it as if it is loaded. And you know, a lot of young people, they when they reach a certain age, they want to start hunting and shooting, and that's all well and fine, but you know, it needs to be supervised by an adult, and you should never let a youngster have free range of going in the gun cabinet or getting, you know, the rifle or shotgun off the wall whenever they choose to. They should also ask permission whenever wanting to do so. But again, all responsible gun owners should keep their firearms out of the reach of young children. And it's not a good idea to have loaded firearms inside of your home, although some people do this, you know, for home protection. But if you do this, always make sure that it is not to where a young child can get a hold to it and cause themselves or others harm.
There's far too many tragedies like that that happen across the country every year.
It
all
sure
the time.
is.
But you're right, and that's an important part of, you know, education growing up. I think is to if a young person wants to, you know, learn how to shoot firearms and wants to learn to hunt, you know, by all means, a good hunter safety course is absolutely necessary, I believe. You know,
I agree.
To start instilling the safety training, and then just instill the responsibility that comes along with being able to handle a firearm and gain the privilege of being able to go out and hunt. So, you know, there's a lot that goes to it. You know, basic firearm safety. You know, like you mentioned, Rob, always treat any firearm as if it's loaded. Keep the muzzle pointed in a safe direction. Never point it towards, you know, anybody or anything that any houses or you know, safe direction. Keep the muzzle pointed towards the ground, or, you know, that's probably the safest way. Up in the air. Of course, if something goes off, anything that goes up is going to come down somewhere. You got to remember that. But there's a lot of basic safety things. You know, when you get out and moving through the woods easily, you know, when you come to a fence, what do? Well, the best thing to do is unload the weapon, unload the firearm, place it on the ground, cross the fence, and then reach through and get the firearm and bring it across. And then you can reload it if you want to continue the hunt that way. But just basic safety things like that are just absolutely critical that we all be aware of and practice as we're going into this fall hunting season.
You know, Paul, that's something that I had not thought about, but you're exactly right. And when you are transporting your firearm inside of your vehicle from one hunting location to the other, take a few minutes to unload your firearm before putting it in your vehicle, and that way it'll be safer inside for yourself and your passengers. But Paul, one thing that kind of has always amazed me is when you're hunting, you sometimes get involved in the moment, so to speak. Now, I know we have a lot of people that still hunt, and we have a lot of people that dog hunt.
Right.
And I'm not saying one is better than the other, but one thing that if you are a still hunter, when you get to your stand, whether you're up in a tree or if you're sitting down at the base of the tree, take a few minutes to look around and try to visualize what's beyond the block of woods that you may be hunting in, or if you're shooting to the edge of a field and it's a wood line beyond the edge of the field, visualize and try to find out what is in that direction. But quite honestly, this is something that you should have already figured out before putting your deer stand up. And the same thing goes that when you dog hunt, many times you do not have as much time to take a shot when the deer is being ran by dogs. But no matter how much time you got, safety needs to be your number one concern. And I remember years and years ago going hunting with some guys, and they was going to do a man drive. And pretty much the way it was explained to me, they said, Rob, we're going to get out on this side of the woods here, and way on the other side it's going to be a couple of guys to walk through and kind of flush any deer in there that may be out. But now, Rob, it's a guy right up the road here from you, and then it's one right down the road here from you. So you need to be careful in the direction that you shoot. Well, I said, okay. Well, as it happened, Paul, one of the guys that was down the road from me was supposed to be in the farm path, decided to go down into the woods. Well, the deer ended up crossing between myself and him. Well, he shot, and I don't know how close the shots were to me, but I could hear the shots hitting, the leaves and things. And I decided at that point in time that wasn't the best spot for me to be in, and so I just went on back to the truck and stuff.
That's a critical thing too. If you're in a group like that, and say you're doing a drive with people and have 100 people stationed at the other side, it's critical not to move around if you're in that position, because you need to know it could have been the other way around. You didn't know he moved up the trail.
That's right.
And you might have thought it was a safe direction, and it wasn't. Things could turn out badly. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
It's good idea. If you're supposed to stay in one spot, stay in one spot. If you're hunting in a group like that, or if a lot of times people will bring radios with them, so okay, I'm going to move up the trail about 100 yards, and just he could have let you know that way.
That's right.
And then you would have known, and then he would have known where you were supposedly. But people do get excited in the moment. They don't call it buck fever for nothing.
That's right.
But the adrenaline starts pumping, the heart racing, and need to take a couple of deep breaths and think about it. Okay, if a deer's running, you don't have a lot of time, as you said, but doing what you can to calm your nerves and think about, okay, where's Rob next door to me there? I don't want to swing around too far and send anything in his direction. But the things we're talking about basically comes down to the keeping the muzzle pointed in the safe direction, as I mentioned before, and keeping the finger off the trigger until you're lined up and ready to fire the firearm. You know, most firearms aren't going to go off on their own. They have to have a little bit of
Assistance.
persuasion
That's
to
right.
do that. And so the most important safety factor is the index finger on the hand, as well as what's inside your head here.
Yeah.
You know, telling you what to do. But always keep your fingers in safe positions. You know, when you're not actually ready to fire the firearm.
Well, Paul, years ago, I've been around firearms all my life, and I try to be safe, but I had somebody to tell me years and years ago, when you take the safety off of a gun, most of the time you see a red dot or, some red color exposed on the safety itself. And this person taught me years ago, always think red, you're dead. So, meaning that if a gun is off safety, it doesn't take much to pull the trigger to fire the gun. But hunting is a recreational sport that is to be done for fun and enjoyment. And the benefits of it is, if you're lucky enough to kill a trophy deer, to have it mounted on the wall, that gives you bragging rights for many years. And a lot of people hunt deer for the actual meat.
Absolutely.
And nothing wrong with that. But I will say one thing, and it doesn't really pertain to hunter safety, but it seems like there's some hunters that whenever they go and kill a deer, for some reason or whatever, after they maybe skin the deer and get what portion of the deer that they want, they don't care where they throw the carcass away. A lot of times you see people have thrown deer carcasses out on side of the road, and this adds danger because you can have dogs that are there, and the dogs can get in the highway, and you also have buzzards. But I will say one thing: anytime that I see a deer, that is on the state right of way, I always call the DOT department and report it to have the DOT department to come out and pick it up.
Right.
Because it's a danger, and also after it lays there a while, the odor of it is quite bad. But as Paul said a minute ago, I'm not a deer hunter, although I used to do some hunting. But whenever you see a deer, it doesn't matter if it's a doe or a buck. Your heart just starts beating. At least it did in my case. And I felt like my heart was going to beat out of my chest, and I also felt like my heart was beating so loud that the deer was actually going to hear it. But although it did not, but don't get caught up in the moment. Keep you cool.
Take that extra breath.
Take that extra breath. And when you take that shot, make sure that the shot you're taking is a good, safe shot, because you do not want to just injure the deer. When you're shooting at a deer, you're shooting to kill and not to injure. So don't take the chances. Say, I believe I can make this shot. If it's not a good shot, pass on it.
Pass it up. Wait till the next time.
That's exactly right. We're going to get a word on for one of our fine supporting sponsors. We'll take a trip and we'll stop in at T.G. Brooks Company. They've been in business since 1936, and we're glad to have T.G. Brooks as a sponsor. Thanksgiving will be here before you know it. Christmas, I guess, is about maybe 6 weeks or so away. Well, I want to let you know, T.G. Brooks Company has country hams, hand-cut ribeyes. Whether it's Thanksgiving or Christmas time, you'll enjoy either a country ham or a hand-cut ribeyes from T.G. Brooks Company.
November, the month to start preparing for holiday seasons ahead and picking up your cold weather supplies and needs. Time for wood stoves. It's also time for your Thanksgiving and Christmas hams. We're talking about the famous T.G. Brooks Company old-time cured country hams. People come from miles around to get one of these hams. It is also the time to do last-minute lawn preparation. On some of the warmer days, you can still utilize that day to spread seed, fertilizer, and spruce up. Then next spring, your yard will have a head start. For the leaves, T.G. Brooks Company has your rakes for the lawn. And remember, T.G. Brooks Company, for all you need for Thanksgiving. T.G. Brooks stocks pots and cast iron and aluminum pots and double gas burners. They have hoop cheese. Don't forget they have the Taylor water stove parts too. Cold weather means to check on your stove pipe and pipe fittings, 6-inch and 8-inch. And they have stove mats. Check out the new Comfort Glow infrared quartz heaters for that extra warmth, and they are fan forced for wide heat dispersion. Always keep the pets in mind with cedar shavings. They have Bartlett animal feeds. T.G. Brooks Company has wood splitters, wedges, axes, mauls, and of course plenty of gloves. Bird seed available in 25 and 50-pound bags, and sunflower and black oil seed in stock. Each evening you'll love a steak. So pick a night, stop into T.G. Brooks Company and get a supply of those hand-cut ribeyes. Last call for pansies, the biggest and the prettiest. They also have the Grizzly coolers and mugs to keep beverages hot or cool. T.G. Brooks Company, Helena Maria Road in beautiful Timberlake, serving the homeowner, farmer, and construction worker since 1936.
Here we are back on the Gardener's Corner program. My name is Rob Hall. Mr. Paul Westfall, the Director of the Cooperative Extension Service for Person and Granville Counties. We're glad to have him here with us this morning.
Glad to be here.
And we're talking about hunter safety. And anyway, I think it's a really good topic, because it's mentioned, deer season, gun season actually starts tomorrow, and it runs through January 1st. And so here we go with Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's. A lot of times when people are out traveling, shopping, visiting family and friends, you may be doing a little bit more traveling, coming up than you typically do. But again, just be mindful of the deers, out and about on the highways, because, you certainly don't want to cause any harm to your vehicle and or the deer. And Paul, I have heard of several cases of where a motorist would hit a deer and the deer would actually come through the windshield and end up in the vehicle with the person.
There are some cases that happen like that,
and that is a bad thing should that ever happen.
Well, it's bad enough just to, I'll call it a normal, deer car crash, but, because there's a lot of damage to your vehicle. Of course, it injures the deer or maybe kills it, right there on the road, and it's always not a good thing to have happen. But when they roll up and come through the windshield, that can be even worse, because that, it can cause damage to the people inside the car, injuries that way. So we don't want that to happen either.
Paul, one question pertaining to hunter safety. It seems to me that a youngster cannot get their hunting license without taking a hunter safety course. Is that correct or not?
Yeah, when they get old enough to actually have a license required that way, they're supposed to have a hunter safety course before they can actually get a hunting license.
Right.
So, I think that's a good thing, and it doesn't hurt for some of us that have been around for a few years to even go back and take a refresher course now and then, to just kind of reemphasize these things we already know but maybe not think about sometimes. And there's some changes that come along that we probably need to be aware of too. So yeah, hunter safety course is a good idea for any young person that's coming up and wanting to, when they get to the age that they have a license requirement, to to take that course so they can get their license, because they're going to be asked, okay, or to be shown the certificate that you passed the course.
Right.
So that's a good thing for everyone.
Something else that a lot of times when it's different ones hunting certain areas, a lot of time hunting more or less boundaries or spaces will overlap with other hunters, and it's always a good idea to be friends with your neighboring hunters, and kind of work out maybe a schedule and say, I'd like to hunt my stand this Monday afternoon, or you going to be hunting your stand, because I know in a lot of places to where it can be big fields, and the property line can go right down through the middle of the field.
That can happen.
And one hunter may have permission
On
to
one
hunt
side.
this property and another on the other.
Yeah.
And so nobody wants to be still hunting and have someone come in on top of them. So it'd be a good idea for you to discuss and maybe come up with a little schedule, about I'm going to be hunting this spot such and such a day, and or if you're going to be hunting that day, I won't come in. And also something else that's really important. Wildlife and dogs cannot read posted no hunting signs. But you as a hunter, you should be able to and obey those signs. So if you come up on property that has no hunting signs posted, and I have been told, and I have noticed a lot of times when riding, Paul, you'll come up on a place and it's like they've got no hunting signs within, 20 or 25 feet of the next sign. And I've been told that a lot of people say you really need to have, these signs posted from where they can be seen from any given point from whatever part of the highway that you may be on.
Well, or coming through the woods from the other direction.
Right.
You need to be able to see them. But the signs can be up. It don't have to be that close together. I think there is a legal requirement of minimum distance or whatever. They need to be apart, but they do need to be visible. And another part of the trespass law is that you don't have to have a sign per se that says no trespassing or no hunting or no fishing. You can use purple paint about the color of your shirt,
Right.
to spray on your property lines to indicate that okay, this is posted property. Don't cross my property line unless you've got permission, to do so. And I'm glad you brought all that up about posted areas and respecting the hunting areas of other people. If people are going to go out and hunt, please respect the wishes of the landowner. If you want to hunt an area and it's not your property, find out who owns it and then request permission to hunt. And I believe there's a form that can be filled out, to say, okay, I, Paul Westfall, give Rob Hall permission to hunt on my property,
Right.
On these days or whatever.
Right.
So, and you can carry that with you, and if there's any question, you've got the permission slip there with you. So that's a good thing to do. And the other thing, when you were talking about, working out who's going to hunt in one area and another area, whatever, when you're on your deer stand and you hear something moving through the woods, let's say, wait and identify what that is before, firing the weapon, discharging the firearm. Because it might not be what you're hunting for. So always positively identify your target.
Good point.
And then another thing, we're trying to put out a few safety tips here. There is a requirement during gun season that hunters wear orange, something orange. Most in North Carolina, the requirement is at least you have to have an orange hat on, I believe. Other states, you have to have a hat and an orange vest or coat. So be sure and observe that, because if you're moving through the woods, you don't know who else is around. And most people, the only thing that's not camouflaged when they're out hunting these days, it seems like, is their orange hat. So be sure and wear at least that portion of the orange during the gun season, to let other folks more readily pick out that you're moving through that area.
Yep. And you know, I guess maybe some of them, when they get, if they're hunting from a tree stand, when they get in the tree stand, they may take their orange hat or vest off or whatever. But whenever you are walking through the woods, and it would be a good idea, even if you're not hunting, if you're spending time out in the woods during hunting season, it'd be a good idea for you to pick up an orange hat or an orange vest, so people,
People have the vest for visibility when walking along the roads. That's not a bad thing to have when doing that. And I know some people also will put orange on their dogs, their pets, during the hunting season. I haven't seen it this bad here, but I've heard of other places in the country where people that, farmers say own some livestock, they will actually either spray paint some orange on them or write cow on the side. I've heard of that happen. I haven't seen it in North Carolina, but I have heard of it in some other areas. But please be, please be respectful of the property owner's wishes, and be sure and identify what's making that noise off in the bush, in the brush. It's, it might be a deer coming your way, or it might be another person. It might be a dog.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Paul. I hadn't thought about that. One thing I'm glad that you did mention, and I must tell you that when you talked about, the orange paint on the trees and seeing it on, light poles and things like that. Yeah, the purple paint. And I wondered, because I've been seeing this, over the last several years or so, and it's only been maybe a couple of years that I realized what the purple paint was for. When I first started seeing it, I kind of thought it was just someone
just a property line marker.
Property lines, but that pretty much means a no hunting zone. And you were talking about if you do request permission to hunt on someone's property, as Paul said, it may be a form available that the landowner could fill out to give permission, or it could be something that's written on a simple piece of paper, and you could keep that piece of paper with you whenever you're hunting. And I know in many cases that it is some farms around here that has told the game wardens, if you catch anybody hunting on my property, unless they have a signed permission slip from me, ticket them for trespass. And you certainly don't want to do that. And I think many times game wardens, along with other law enforcement people, get bad reputations, because everybody thinks, they're just out here to get us. They're not. They are there to enforce rules and regulations that have been put forth for the betterment of society and wildlife and everything. And with deer hunting and fishing, there's certain limits on different amounts of fish that you can catch, the size, and it's hunting restriction on deer and things, and it's done in such to give everybody the opportunity to achieve their bag limit, but it's also done to keep the species from being wiped off the map,
either
so to speak.
decimate, and they also don't want them to overpopulate, because that can be just as bad.
Right.
We've had some issues of some diseases in deer herds when they get too many in a certain area, and then it's no fun to walk through the woods and find deer carcasses.
Yeah.
Well, that weren't hunted. They
Yeah.
were they got sick and died because there were just too many of them, or they don't have enough food to sustain them if
Yeah.
if they get overpopulated. But we don't want to go the other direction either, and get so that there's not any that we can enjoy seeing the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah. One thing you mentioned tree stands a while ago. I think people getting in tree stands. That's a popular thing for people to do, is to get up above. I think deer do mainly look around. Most of the predators are on the ground, but I think they're getting smarter and look up now more than they used to. But be safe getting in and out of the deer stand. The recommended way is to make sure the stand is secured properly and it's not going to rattle around and wobble around and break on you. But the recommendation is to lay your whatever your bow or your gun on the ground empty, nothing in it. Climb up in the tree stand, and you've tied a line down to the gun or the bow, and once you get safely in the tree stand, pull that up to you while you're on firm footing, and don't try to carry one hand and climb a ladder one-handed. That's usually not a good idea in a lot of cases. And a lot of stands, they come with a safety harness, and you can actually harness yourself, put the harness on, tie the strap to the tree so that you don't accidentally fall out of the deer stand. I've heard of people doing that, and it's easier to do than you might think. Especially when we talked about the excitement of the moment. I have heard of people who actually got so excited they forgot where they were and stepped out into air, and that first step was a doozy. And the next thing they know, they're on the ground wondering what happened.
Yeah, you know what they say, the fall's not too bad, just that sudden stop.
That sudden stop gets you, yeah.
Well, Paul, I'm going to tell a tale on myself. Back when I was in high school, and when you're in high school, with your high school buddies and everything, it's no question that cannot be answered, around a bunch of high school guys, So we were talking about hunting, and I told him, I said, I've been seeing a few deers, in a certain spot, and I said, maybe I ought to get a tree stand, and I wasn't as big then as I am now, but anyway. One of the guys told me, he said, Rob, you don't want to go in there and be putting up a deer stand making a lot of noise this time of the year, with season being in. He said, you just need try to find you a tree that you could get up off the ground a little ways and maybe set a few boards or something in it across a limb to where you could just kind of sit on and be in a tree. And I said, well, I'll do that. So I found one, and I was not off the ground, maybe 8 or 10 feet at the most. But I'm going to tell you, 8 or 10 foot in a tree, that's a pretty good fall to the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Well, at this particular time, I did not have a hunting rifle. And I had borrowed a 30-30 from a gentleman. And so, anyway, I'm kind of sitting in the tree. Well, a doe came out of the field that I was on the edge of. Yeah. And, when I saw the doe, my heart went to padding and things like that. And I just sat there just a minute, and the doe just kind of had started grazing a little bit, but she stopped. And she got to looking around, and she was lifting her head up in the air. And the next thing I knew, she was looking dead at me, and I tried to be just as still as I could. Well, the next thing I knew, she kind of blew at me or snorted or whatever you say, and I wasn't expecting that, and it kind of caught me off guard, and it startled me,
That's why they do it.
But just as soon as I done that, moved a little bit, she hauled buggy. Needless to say, I didn't go back and get in the tree anymore because I said it's got to be an easy way to hunt than this. But again, that wasn't the safest thing for me to do. Always make sure that your tree stand is secured. And I know a lot of hunters use the same tree stand in the same tree year after year after year. And you may want to do some preventive maintenance. You may want to check it out to make sure that it's going to be, safe. And because, as Paul said, you get involved in the moment and you may have to lean one way too far to take the shot, and that could cause you problems.
It sure can.
Hey, we'll be back in a few minutes. We need to get a word on for South Boston Memorials. They're one of our fine supporting sponsors. We do appreciate the support of South Boston Memorials. They're located over on Seymour Drive in South Boston, Virginia. We'll get a word on for them, and we'll be back in just a few minutes.
South Boston Memorials, located 1439 Seymour Drive in South Boston, Virginia. They offer granite markers, monuments, and mausoleums. For more information, visit the website SoboMemorials.com or call 434-572-3859. South Boston Memorials have been in business and family-owned since 1958. In-house laser etching is available at South Boston Memorials. They have over 300 granite memorials in stock. For all of your granite markers, monuments, and mausoleums, stop in and see them right there at South Boston Memorials, located 1439 Seymour Drive in South Boston, Virginia, or call them at 434-572-3859 and visit the website SoboMemorials.com. That's South Boston Memorials, located 1439 Seymour Drive in South Boston.
All righty, here we are back on the Gardener's Corner program where we're talking about hunter safety today. We'll get a word on in just a few minutes for Owl Pride Foods, makers of Owl Pride, premium pimento cheese spread and dip. We just heard from South Boston Memorials, and earlier we heard from T.G. Brooks Company. Mr. Paul Westfall is our guest of the North Carolina Cooperative Extension Service. Continuing on with hunter safety, if you are interested in taking a hunter safety course, I know is several different agencies throughout the county that actually sponsors them and things. So, and I think Paul passed along some really good advice. If you are a dad and you've got a child that is wanting to get into hunting, get them enrolled in that hunter safety course. Don't be too much of a macho man to enroll yourself and kind of refresh your memory.
It can be a good father-son or mother-daughter thing to do together.
And I'm glad you made that comment because it seems that it's more females hunting these days, and the population of female hunters seems to get bigger each and every year. And so a hunter safety course would be a good family outing. And, maybe you are a grandparent and, you may want to give the gift to maybe your grandchildren or maybe your nieces and nephews a certificate to where they can take a hunter's safety course, because it's a lot of valuable information that you will learn from it. I have never taken a hunter safety course, but I guess if I got back into hunting, it would be something that I would like to do and should do. But again, I've always been taught whenever you are handling any kind of firearm, whether it's a handgun, a shotgun, a rifle, it does not matter. Always have and be conscientious in your mind that this gun may actually be loaded. And a lot of times when people get around each other when they're hunting, they get to talk about their actual weapon that they are using, and they want to tell their friends about it or whatever. And one may say, well, let me take a look at your weapon.
Mm-hmm.
You know, whenever someone shows me a weapon, I always say, is it loaded? And if they say yes, you know, I say, well, you know, take the clip out of it and let's unload it. Or if they hand it to me and they say it's unloaded, I always like
Always
to look
check,
myself.
yeah. It's best to safe it, you know, before handing it across. You know, leave the action open. Make sure there's no ammunition in it. The magazine is empty, and make sure there's nothing in the barrel.
That's right.
And then examine it. But again, even when you've done everything you can to make it safe, always treat it as if it's still loaded.
That's right. That's exactly right. But again, if you would be interested in getting more information on hunter safety, you could contact your local cooperative extension service office, or contact your local wildlife office, and they can give you information. And just the biggest thing, be safe. And not only do you want to be safe to yourself, you want to be safe with everyone that is around you. And, again, when you're lining up that shot, don't take that shot unless you're sure that you can make the kill. Don't shoot to injure, because I've heard many people say that they have, taken a shot and they would say, well, I knew that I was too far away, but I decided to take the shot, and I hit the deer and injured the deer, and I looked, but I could never find the deer. But then a week or so down the road, you may come across the deer that had actually died. And I've heard of hunters killing deer that has been shot before.
Yep.
That maybe had a broken leg or something. So just take your time and a deep breath before you make that shot.
Yeah.
Let's get a word on for Owl Pride Foods, one of our fine supporting sponsors of the Gardener's Corner program. And we'll be back with more Gardener's Corner right after this.
Goodness grows in North Carolina, and our Pride Premium Pimento Cheese Spread and Dip is made locally in Roxborough. Pick up some for yourself and enjoy. You can get the Our Pride Premium Pimento Cheese regular, or for extra flavor, try the jalapeno added. Get some for yourself at T.G. Brooks Company, Supply Line Discounts, North Main IGA, Hurdle Mills Market and Butcher Shop, Twins Meat Market, Food Line, or just Save. Or if you're in Uptown Roxborough and get the hankering for some Our Pride Premium Pimento Cheese Spread and Dip, you can enjoy it at Cole's Pharmacy, Trish's Espresso, and Snappy's Cafe. That's Our Pride Premium Pimento Cheese Spread and Dip. Whether you're having it for a meal or a snack, it's good.
Here we are back on the Gardener's Corner program. And Paul, once again, our time is just flown away.
It goes fast, doesn't it?
But thank you for thinking about hunter safety. And I think it is a really good time of the year with gun season starting tomorrow. But again, we want to remind everybody, be safe. Hunting is an activity that is supposed to be fun and enjoyable, but take it very seriously. And always, first rule, be safe.
And remember, sometimes that shot you don't take, the results from that can be just as rewarding.
That's right. Good point. Special thanks goes out to Mr. Paul Westfall of the North Carolina Cooperative Extension Service, where he serves as the director for Person and Granville counties. Thanks goes out to T.G. Brooks Company, Owl Pride Foods, and South Boston Memorials for being the sponsors of the Gardener's Corner program. And special thanks to David Bratcher Jr., as we call him, Kilby, who goes to some kind of extra work from time to time to get us on the air, but we appreciate his hard work and dedication. So with that, we want to wish you and yours a happy and safe weekend, and again, happy Veterans Day, and we salute and say thank you to all of our veterans.
Several locations as the